Hey everyone, it's Megan Wise coming to you live with Keller Williams Portfolio Profits Podcast, all about the profits. And this one's a special one because we are going to dissect the new law proposed by the City of Fishers for the 10% rental cap in our neighborhood. So here with me is Peter Stewart. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you for joining us. Peter Stewart and I are business partners and friends, and we are heavily invested on both sides of the coin of this controversial topic. So here we are today, kind of talk about what just happened this week, why did it happen, and what are our key takeaways as investors and as realtors that represent a lot of investor buyers, right?
It's quite an interesting subject.
Yes.
I mean, it's a debate that's always gone on, but now they're actually putting it into legislation. You've seen this debate in the kind of very hyper local level in terms of HOAs and subdivisions and communities, but now it's actually going up a level to the I guess the state or city level, and it's got a big impact in the investment world.
And with the city, so it's the City of Fishers passes the ordinance says starting January 1, landlords have to do a registry process that allows the city to know who is renting their homes, and they have contact information, right?
Yes.
So do you like that idea?
I'm totally fine with that. I own property in other states that have similar things. I mean, number one, I think having that registry is important for safety. You know, you're an out-of-state landlord, your house catches on fire, it's vacant. Who do they call? How do they track you down? Or if there are issues, or if you have a nuisance, if you have a tenant that might be getting calls to the police on a common basis, they need to be able to find you easily. So I understand it from that perspective, and I have no issue there. Indianapolis already has that in place. It's all the other rules that are
let's talk about them. Okay, so I have my cheat sheet here. So what are the main points that we need to make sure everyone understands is that register your existing rentals before December 31st. It's a free registration process. We are good with that. What that does is make sure that your home, if it's currently a rental in Fishers, it stays a rental. Okay, got it. And then assess rental saturation in target subdivisions. So really, if we are considering representing our buyers correctly, we need to understand how much the rental caps are per neighborhood if they're looking as an investor buyer.
Definitely.
Tell us about that process, because that's difficult.
It's something we kind of already do. So anytime you're buying a rental property in a neighborhood that's controlled by an HOA, you have to look at the CC&Rs, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, and make sure there are no rental restrictions in place. Or if there are rental restrictions in place, which many of them already have, what are those restrictions? Because if, as an investor, obviously that's very important. That's going to impact either your ability to purchase it in the first place, because sometimes rentals are restricted completely, and it can control the type of strategy you use within the property, meaning are they restricting short-term, mid-term rentals, have any types of rules in regard to minimum amount of term for the lease, whether it's 6 months, 12 months. So that's something we already do. But not all HOAs have any rental restrictions in place, and now it's going to put them in place on every single one of them, and it's going to make it uniform. So from that perspective, I kind of like it. It makes it a little easier, because anytime someone contacts me and is interested in a specific property that is in an HOA neighborhood, if I don't already know what those restrictions are, it's just a process. We have to call the property manager, we have to call the agent, and it's something we have to do a little due diligence on. And oftentimes people don't know the answer, so we're looking through 80, 90, 100 pages of documents to try to find that one little line that talks about rentals. And if you're familiar with, well, I know you are, but the general public is familiar with the CC&Rs, there's a lot of things that can happen over time. And if the subdivision was built 30 years ago, there's many amendments and changes that can happen along the way. So you have to make sure not only do you have those CC&Rs, but the updated version and all the amendments and everything else that goes with it to make sure you have the correct information. So it can be a little murky sometimes and require a lot of due diligence just to find an answer for a singular property. So this is kind of level the playing field to a degree.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of people don't understand the dirty details. Most realtors aren't educated as landlords and investors like we are. And when we're representing the right buyer who want to invest, you have to have these kind of knowledgeable people representing your interests, because if you purchase it and you go through all the way and at the end you realize you're not inside the cap or you're restricted, then it's not a haircut. You can't grow your hair back. Like you can't just stop and oops, sell the house. There's a ton of tax applications if you buy the house for investment purposes and not understanding the HOA or CCRs, right? And you and I have seen over the years, there's hard to get a hold of HOA people. They don't respond, whether it's professionally managed or not. It's some of the bane of our existence, besides inspections and appraisers, right?
And you'd be surprised at how many the property managers, professional property management companies, don't even know the rules offhand. They have to look into it as well. Owners don't know, agents don't
No.
know. Not only is it just something they don't think about, I mean, if you buy in a subdivision and you're not an investor, I guess you don't really care about the rules that much. So it makes sense you're not going to be up to date on the most,
True.
on all the rules there. But the property managers should be. But yeah, it is a pain in the butt to try to get that info.
I encourage everyone to work with someone at Portfolio because we know the down and dirty of what things are hidden and where CCRs can be found, and amendments to CCRs are not always shared between realtors. So you're getting misinformation.
All the time.
So we teach our realtors to go get the information on their own and see it for themselves and seek and discover answers like that. So, okay, we get a buyer and our buyer's interested in looking, we find the CCRs and it's able to be rented, that's great. Let's say it's before 2026. So we get them in the door and we get the lease and we get them registered. So what happens if you have a buyer after January 1st of 2026?
Well, that's where it becomes tricky because not only we're going to know the general rules, but now we have to investigate where are they in that cap. That's where that registry is going to come in handy because it's formal. So we're going to know, okay, there's X% of renters in this neighborhood according to the database. So that should make the due diligence process a little easier, I suppose, and a little more transparent. But it is another layer of things that we have to look into, and that's why it's very important. What you said earlier, working with an agent or a group of agents that are very well versed in the investment space. You need to know the right questions to ask because if you're spending $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 as an investment and the agent you work with doesn't ask those questions, you may have just bought a property that you can't use as a rental property anymore, and you're out a lot of money. And there's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah, there is. And I feel like we feel really well prepared to tell people what is a good investment and what is not. And we talked a lot about like Noblesville, Fishers, Carmel, Westfield. This is probably going to span across the board in Hamilton County. So you're a Carmel resident, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about your specific. If and when this passes in Carmel, which we hear like wildfire, it's going across the board in Hamilton County. So let's assume it's happening in Carmel next. How does that directly affect you?
So it, as a homeowner, it doesn't affect me too much. Actually, this is why this topic is so hotly debated because I see both sides of it. And I am really split. I mean, almost to a hypocritical point because
Tell me.
I live in a HOA-controlled subdivision. I don't really like renters in my neighborhood. I know they're stereotyped as being loud, obnoxious, don't care about the rules, and that's not always the case. Most renters are just fine. But we have a renter in my neighborhood. There's the one house that's a revolving door, and it's always obnoxious. Right now, we have the guy with the really loud car. He zooms up and down the street. Like, we don't want him in the neighborhood. Like, it's one of those ones. So as a homeowner, I'm not the biggest fan of rentals in my neighborhood, but of course, as the investor and agent, I love it. It's a great investment, investing in a class, of course, and there's a lot of people who go for that type of strategy. There's a lot of reasons to do it, which we can get into. But these HOAs, like my neighborhood has always had rental restrictions in place. So we already have the cap in place. So actually, it's not changing my neighborhood fundamentally at all. We already had a 10% cap. So business as usual for us, but there's plenty of neighborhoods in Hamilton County and in Carmel specifically that do not have those in place. So coming in, I see the homeowners are probably going to be happy about it. And of course, most of our investors are not going to be. The one caveat there is I bought the property I live in right now with the plan of living there for a few years, turned into 10, but eventually I'm going to move into a different home and I plan on keeping that house as a rental. So if we have this cap, we have the cap, my neighborhood specifically, I knew there was a cap, so it's okay. But if you were to be in my shoes and buy in a different neighborhood with that plan down the road of turning your property into a rental property, and now this cap is in place, you may not be able to do that when the time comes. So I made this purchase with this plan according to the rules at the time, and now they have changed, and that is impacting my ability to use the property as I had planned on. So definitely a negative there.
For you there. And I like to say that it is such a heated topic and we can see both sides because it affects us both in our professional life, in our investing life, as we represent clients and as we represent our own family needs. And I think it's interesting that as the city council spoke on Monday at their meeting was, if you have a hardship, you can apply for an exemption, military, job relocation, renting to family. So they feel like they've laid out a plan of like, oh shoot, we need to pivot and I do need to rent my house. And there are options, you just have to apply for that option, right? So just want to clear that up, although maybe we don't like the idea of having a government officials telling us what to do with our own property.
Yes.
Right? That's a big, clear message that we heard on Monday night.
Definitely. And the other side of the coin that I haven't really heard discussed yet in regard to that meeting is, so the argument is it protects values in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that rentals will drag down the value. And if you have the problem tenants, sure, I can see that.
Yeah.
But what they haven't discussed yet, and I'm interested to see someone's take on this, is those people who can't purchase now are not in a position, either they don't have the money, bad credit, whatever it is, just got divorced, whatever it is, but they want to live in one of these communities, and now they can't because the amount of rentals are restricted. What are they going to do?
Yeah, where are they going to go?
They're funneled into apartments. So what if you have a dog and a big family? Apartment's not the best life. You need a yard, you want space. So now their options are very limited. So while it's protecting some homeowners, it is hurting a section of the community, the rental community. And that's someone, they need to be protected too. There's plenty of landlord-tenant laws in place to protect both landlords and renters, but now you're restricting their options. And funneling them into apartments for the most part. The other downside, or what I hear discussed a lot, is that these big, multi-million, billion-dollar companies are the ones buying up all the rental properties.
Yes.
Number one, that's not really true.
Not true.
It's typically just normal people like us buying these. Yeah. Investors who own 1, 2, 3 homes. That's the majority of it. But who owns these large $100 million apartment complexes?
Yeah.
It's not the small guys. It's the big corporations that these laws are trying to kind of protect them from buying too many properties, but now they're just going to funnel more money in their pockets in a different way.
Yeah. And I think that's also the debate, is there's going to be limiting options for people that we represented, divorced dads, divorced moms, a lot of transient professors at Ball State and IPY. I've rented to families who are moving in from out of state and they don't know the area, so they want to rent before they buy.
Yeah.
We hear that all
Test
the time,
the waters,
right?
yeah.
We want to understand the community before we really pull the trigger. And so we want to rent first. And we've gotten that from high-level execs all the way across the board to middle management. Anybody that comes in, they are, before they lay down their roots, and that's a normal request, and there's not going to be as many options for them, right?
Yeah.
And so as a landlord, I own multiple homes in Fishers, so I'll have to register by January 1. And for me, if I'm also representing a potential client that wants to buy an investment in Fishers, I would say we need to purchase that and find it before January 1. Would you say?
Oh, there's absolutely an urgency right now, because investing in the A class, while it's not the majority, most investors tend to buy in what we call more C class type areas where there's a lot of cash flow. But there is a segment of the population, or I should say a segment, a strategy, a sub-strategy of investing in A class. And there's plenty of investors that like to do that. And they've got a limited window there because there's going to be a big rush, I think, for people buying these. And now's the time to do it. If you want to get in, do it.
And you were going to look, if you're on the bubble of investing in Class A, can you tell us a little bit about your background in investing and the out-of-state investors that you work with daily that want to put their money here?
Absolutely. So I've been a full-time broker for over 16 years. I've been working with investors my entire career. About 80% of my business are investors. I'd say 98% of them are not local.
Wow.
So they come from all over the country and world to invest here in Indianapolis. I'm the top investment-focused broker in the city, one of 10 elite agents in the Bigger Pockets program as well. So I work with a lot of investors from all over the place, and a lot of them do like to invest in A class, especially in our market, because we're one of the only markets where you can get into the A class for $300,000 or $400,000.
Right.
That barely gets you a garage in a C class location in some other markets here. I mean, Compton, California, homes are $600,000 to $800,000 entry level. Here, for $250,000 to $300,000, you can find a small single-family house, and arguably one of the best places to live in the country.
Exactly. Tell us.
Extremely safe, very good schools, great appreciation. I mean, rock solid investments. There's a lot of reasons for people to invest in the A class. And so a lot of people come to me looking for these, and especially a lot of high income clients, I find. Those are the typical type that like to invest in A class because it's not a cash flow focused investment. So there's 4 main ways to make money in investing: cash flow, appreciation, depreciation, and taxes. So it's a little quadrant, draw 4 squares. And people get very hyper-focused on the cash flow for obvious reasons.
So cash flow is if I owe a mortgage on the house is about $1,000 a month rent, or a mortgage, and I can rent it for about $1,200, I'm cash flowing $200.
Yeah, the $200 net profit is your cash flow.
Got it.
And people get hyper-focused on that, kind of forgetting there's a lot of other ways that properties make money. And so when people invest in the A class, some of the reasons are, number one, especially in our specific market, is an extremely stable place to park your money. So I have a lot of high income clients, doctors, attorneys, things like that, who make a lot of money, don't necessarily want to put it in the stock market,
Yep.
or they already have investments there, they want to diversify,
Yep.
and they want a tangible asset to put that money into. A-class is a great way to do it because it is extremely stable. Our market is stable already. Going to the A-class, I mean, this sounds weird to say it, and I tell this all the time, but it's harder to find a more safe place in real estate to put your money than in our A-class.
In Indianapolis, A-class, Hamco.
Yeah, in Hamilton County, Carmel, Fishers, Noblesville, Westfield, amazing place to put your money. I mean, it's nothing's 100% guaranteed in real estate, but it's 99.9% guaranteed.
And right, how many of our clients 15 years ago when we started, 18 years ago, going, I wish I would have stayed and kept my bar level bungalow or my 130 starter home in Fishers, which is now pushing 300K value. Right. And so you're going to have that long-term solid appreciation. And you're telling us your clients outside of Indianapolis see that and grab it.
Well, they like the stability, definitely. They like the appreciation because A-class, because of the stability and because of the growth here. I mean, Westfield was the 6th fastest growing city in the country in 2022. And I believe Hamilton County still is the fastest growing county in Indiana. There's, all sorts of multi-$100 million into billion-dollar projects going around, from the Grand Space Center to the $200 million Andretti Global and Fishers and many, many others. So lots of growth here, even though these areas are very established. I mean, Carmel was amazing when I was growing up. Fishers and Westfield are a little newer to the party, but still have, Fishers is, I guess, been a city since 2010. So it's got 15 years as a city, but they want the stability. They want the great schools. They also, although I don't know if I can say this, but they like to rent to families. Say the F word here.
Oh yeah, they do like to rent to families.
So a lot of families are going to rent these properties because of the schools, and it's very, very safe.
To have a tenant that is a family, has family.
Less likely for turnover as well. It's not that transient person who's going to, after a year, you're going to turn over, because from the investment perspective, that's where you lose a lot of your money, is on tenant turnover. Yeah, because not only do you have to clean up the place to get it ready for the next tenant, that's going to cost you money, but you've got vacancy and then you've got tenant placement fees as well. So if you turn a tenant over once a year in your property, that might take it from a profitable property to a unprofitable property very quickly. So having longevity in your tenant and minimizing that turnover really helps the profitability of your investment. And when you rent to a family that's going into a school system, they're much more likely to stay in the long term than move every year.
You're so right. I have a 3-bedroom condo. It's 1,600 square feet, which is large. A 3-bedroom condo is large, right? And I always have families in there. And I love renting to them because I'm able to give, whether it's moving, one couple moved from Fort Wayne trying to establish, another couple going through divorce. It's nice to be able to give someone an opportunity to go to Fisher schools, and you don't have the down payment right now to buy, or you're still trying to figure out where you want to live. So the rental cap does kind of diminish the options for those kind of people. But it doesn't mean that there's not going to be options. True.
I mean, a lot of it, the real high level discussion is about freedom. And you could make the free market capitalism argument, like no one should tell me what to do. Like I have the money, I can do whatever I want. But general society needs some protections in place too, because without those guardrails, like people with the money are just going to take over. And I get it. It could be, these multi-billion-dollar international corporations could buy every single property in Hamilton County if they
and it
wanted
could
to.
happen again. I know it was heavy in 2021, 2022. We haven't seen those corporations coming in. Why? Because of cash flow, right, and interest rates. But cash flow is not there for them. But your investor buyers from all the coasts, East Coast, West Coast, international buyers, they see us and they come for the Class A stuff because it's conservative and it's long-term very profitable.
Well, and again, it's just a very safe bet.
It's just safe.
Like, I can't think of a safer real estate investment than an A-class single-family house in Hamilton County.
And I like to, your credentials of investing and your knowledge is so well known, and obviously you're a national figure in this investment world, and so we're so thankful you're sharing with us, because I want to take that knowledge and give it to the everyday local professional here and say, hey, if you're looking for generational wealth, trust Peter, go talk to him or call me, because we can get you one now for your kid who's going to be moving to Bloomington in a year and a half, and you can make that a rental, you can house hack. There's so many cool things you can do with your money right now and not just put in the stock market, right? And you're seeing it. I mean, how many calls a day do you have usually scheduled? 4 to 6 a day?
I cap it at 8.
Cap it at 8?
But it's usually between 4 and 8.
4 to 8 a day of people calling you to invest in Indianapolis. And so our our why is to take the everyday broker here to give that kind of investment to themselves and their families and our clients and our friends that want to do the same. And it is catching on. And I want people to realize that this ordinance is good and bad. There's heat on both sides, but it's here and it's happening.
Yep.
So taking your knowledge and what we know about Fisher's Rentals is it's extremely safe bet. It's extremely profitable long term. And so if you're interested, you need to buy one before January 1st of this year.
And work with agents like ourselves who
Yes.
can help you navigate all of that.
Yeah, because it's not like
it's
I'm
very
just going to
complex.
pick the first $250,000 house available in Fishers. Well, you got to think about the rental cap, CCRs, age of mechanicals, location, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of things that it's not as simple as I always want a house for X price.
Right,
There's a lot more that
right.
goes into it because you have to look at it with an investment lens. It's not just, oh, I can envision myself growing up here. And
Yeah.
This is an investment. It's not emotional at all. It's about the numbers. And
Yes.
so just because it's in a location at a certain price, I mean, that's a start, but there's a lot of other variables that you have to factor in. Like when we're talking about appreciation, okay, well, what big projects are coming in? Like as an example, the Grand Space Center, that's $1 billion project.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we know Westfield's a safe bet already,
Right.
but buying walking
Right
distance
there.
to that, high likelihood of accelerated appreciation. So again, we're talking about the investment over the long 10-year plus period or more, positioning, getting your investment positioned in an area that is within the kind of path of progress.
Right.
Will only accelerate that wealth it's going to build over time.
Yeah, and speaking of Westfield, we know they're building that Taj Mahal across from Grand Park. And when Grand Park was going up, remember everyone buying the Grand Park houses for
I wish I'd gotten in
Airbnbs?
on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we helped some clients get in on that game a couple of years ago. And so where's that next game? And it stops if there's a rental cap, kind of, unless you can get in these cities, Fishers now before January 1, but Carmel and Westfield and Zionsville probably following Noblesville will be following suit soon.
Oh, guaranteed.
Guaranteed they'll be happening. So it can be investing anywhere, but if you're interested, we need to start now.
Yes.
And I think it's a smart conversation to have. And this proposed and now in law ordinance is passed. I think it really changes the language of us saying, hey, we're looking at it differently you guys should too. We have one, Sarah Denning, our business partner, has one coming up in Sunblest, which is a popular no rental restriction HOA neighborhood, which is part of one of the issues of this particular lovely, beautiful, like all-American neighborhood in the heart of Fishers. And it's turned into a lot of rentals, right?
Yeah.
And it's become popular because it's walking distance to the brand new downtown city area.
Yeah, the nickel plate area.
The nickel plate. And so she has one coming up in there, and we could talk about that that's a great investment for somebody.
Oh, absolutely.
Buying Sunblest before January 1, or buying these walkability neighborhoods in a certain before a certain time. But you need to call us and let us know.
I think too,
give that
strategically, it's going to boost the desirability and value of the non-HOA properties too, which are in the minority in these neighborhoods, but they exist.
Correct.
There's plenty of these around.
Oh, I should plug. I've just listed a lot, 2 lots on Brook School Road in Fishers with no HOA.
Yes.
So that is a place where you don't have to guardrail yourself on what you can build, what you can rent. You can build a carriage house, an ADU. You can build your house in the front and a rental in the back, and you don't have to answer to anybody.
To a degree, I mean, like speaking on Carmel specifically, but like depending on the strategy, like short-term rentals, they were strict that you can't do that. So even if it's not HOA, this is not really applicable to this current proposal or legislature. But they don't allow short-term rentals at all
in Carmel
for the most part. I mean, if it's I believe it's if it's your primary residence first, you can then use it as short-term rentals. Meaning if you have that ADU or something like that. So they make it extremely difficult to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
basically,
just
keeping you out.
Know that the HOAs are difficult in general. This kind of streamlines the process, but we're telling people you need to come and look in this Class A because everybody else outside of Indiana is. So if you're a local buyer and you want to dip your toe in this pool, do you think Class A is a much better buy than going to the city and buying a $100,000 Class C property?
In the long term, yes.
I mean, depend on the buyer. Right?
Yeah, that's the beauty of real estate investing, as you know. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. There's a million ways to do it, and there is no right or wrong answers.
Right.
Obviously, in any specific area or neighborhood, there can be right answers because, like Carmel, you can't do short-term rentals, so that does limit your options. But from a general sense, it kind of depends on the person. It depends on your risk tolerance, depends on what you like, depends on how much money you have. A lot of variables go into what might be the right investment for you.
And you break that down on a call with everybody.
Oh, absolutely. I go over it.
I love their
think of like a funnel because most people that come to me, I mean, I work with so many people. It's from the the very beginner to the seasoned pro and everything in between. So
Yeah.
but a lot of them are first-time buyers and they don't know anything about investing. They just know they want to invest. They've watched some HGTV shows or whatever, and they get excited about it. Or they have a buddy that owns a rental or something. So yeah, it's my job to take them through the whole process, learn what they're looking for, and then kind of show them and tell them about all the options available, so then they can make an informed decision on what might be best for them.
Okay, so I see with additional considerations for what we're thinking about is that the exemptions to the cap, like we just suggested, was relocation, military, cases of undue hardship. You can get an exemption, so we like that. And then really we want everyone to understand that we think that whether it's good or bad, it's happening.
Yeah,
right?
it's irrelevant what your opinion of
Correct.
it is. It is what it is at this point.
Yes, it's happening. And so existing landlords like myself, we will have to fill out the registration process.
And I mentioned if you're using a property management company, they're going to do that for you.
Yeah, or if you have a professional, which we believe that you should have a professional property management company on your rentals, whether you own 1 rental or 10 rentals, right? And so then the other idea is for yourself. If you are a homeowner and you feel like you don't like this rental cap, what do? Call us, we'll sell your house, we'll buy it in a non-HOA.
Yeah.
Like if that's the option, or go run for your HOA president and change the laws. And it's really difficult, right? So the chatter about being able to have it just on the HOA level, the issues that we have seen in our field for years is that you can't get an HOA president to respond. If it's professionally managed, they don't respond. There's high turnover in those positions. It's very low pay. And if you want to change your CCR, amend the CCR for the HOA for rules and restrictions, you have to have a 50% plus 1 vote. It's extremely difficult to go find all your 50% of your neighbors to agree to one thing.
We have 156 homes in my community.
Yeah.
Typically at a HOA meeting, you'll see maybe 3 people show up.
Yeah, and so it's like
they're very uninvolved.
They're not involved, and then but then there's a lot of complaints about what's actually happening. But then no one wants to actually step up and take on that role and communicate and execute these rules and laws on the HOA level.
Yeah.
So I feel like it is something that's kind of avant-garde for Fishers to do, and they're trying something new, but it's obviously a popular situation because every single other Hamilton County city that we work in has discussed that they're going to start this proposal. It's
like dominoes. They're all going to follow suit.
Yeah.
I like the uniformity of it. It makes sense. Kind of just put it across the board, make it all the same, so we don't have to deal with all the variability. There's already enough variability.
There is
in each community, each specific neighborhood. Again, because not only do you have the rental restrictions, but you get into those sub restrictions, meaning specific strategies they might restrict, like transient housing or hotel housing, meaning 30 days or less.
Yeah.
Some say 6 months or more. You need 6-month leases or higher. Some are 12 months.
Yeah, and some you have to live in the home for 2 years before you can
1 year
rent.
or 2 years. There's so many different ways that they can implement these rental restrictions. And so at least there's some consistency with that rule. But there's still going to be those sub rules that confuse everyone and give us more work to do.
So our job is that we're going to be in the in on this stuff.
Yes.
And we just want people to know that buying A-class is extremely conservative. It's very popular. So there's a reason why they're doing this, right? The city felt like they needed to do this. And it will be interesting to see if there's legislation at the state level that proposes it. Sounds like that did try to happen on Monday and was quickly revoked. So we're not here to go into the ins and outs of that. We just are here to educate our buyers and our friends about what we're doing as landlords and as investors. Are you changing your investment strategy at all with this? I assume no.
No, strategy stays the same. Well, for me specifically, no, it doesn't change anything. But how I consult with my clients doesn't really change anything fundamentally. Simply going to really bring up the urgency. If their strategy is they want the A-class strategy and they want Hamilton County specifically, you need to do it now. Don't sit on the fence. And it's not, I'm not saying it simply because, I just want to make another sale. That has nothing to do with that. It's literally the rules going into place January 1st. We've got 8 or 7 months or so until this happens. So if you want to buy, do it now. Yeah.
And that's a normal quarter 3, quarter 4 investor kind of thought process anyways. So we're going to follow that and track that. And I would say for us, I know for my team, we have a $310,000 house currently listed. I got a call the other day, is there rental restrictions? And I said, sir, There's not right now, but there's about to be. So buy it quickly for this realtor that was asking. And so it's in HSC Schools, Fisher Schools. It has a Noblesville address. It's adorable 2-story, 2,500 square foot house.
Probably newer built.
Newer build, maybe 10 years old. And it's going to be probably sell around 300, 310. And it will probably rent for maybe 2,200 a month. But the long-term hold there is that that house eventually, the appreciation on that house is considering 3%, which is what our average has been. And you're looking at a huge gain in equity.
Oh yeah,
over
that's
the next 5 to 10 years.
massive. And then because of the higher price point, it's when you're looking at the investment, you mentioned earlier, is it better to buy that $300,000 A class or that $150,000 C class property that's cash flowing versus maybe a couple $100 negative? And factoring in that appreciation, just from a numbers perspective, a 10% appreciation on a $300,000 house is $30,000. 10% on a $150,000 house is $15,000.
Yeah,
It's going to take you a lot longer to get the same amount of appreciation, and that appreciation typically outpaces that little bit of cash flow you get. So when you analyze these from a 10-year time span or longer, even if your property today may not be either break even or even losing a couple $100, you can still make a great investment because over the long term, you have a lot more equity build up or debt pay down, appreciation, and a lot of tax advantages too, which is the other piece of it that a lot of people forget about. Yeah, you do cost segregation studies, take accelerated depreciation, talk to your tax advisor about that. I'm not an accountant, but there's some strategies that you can.
Trained as an accountant, right?
Yeah, no, well,
accounting, finances,
some background
somewhere in there. Okay.
That's I can't give any CPA. I'm not a CPA.
Don't give any CPA advice.
But that a lot of things to factor in when you're looking at that and why the A class makes a lot of sense, and it can actually make you a lot more money down the line. So that is definitely something I talk about because people don't necessarily think about that. They kind of on the surface level just look at the cash flow. What do the numbers look like? How much is it bringing in every month? How much am I outputting every month? And they stop there. And when you talk about A class, it's a lot more complex than that.
And I want people to call you who are interested in A class because you can go that deeper dive and be thorough about like why do I not buy the 120 C class and I buy the 300. It's a little more costly on the front end now, but if I hold it for X term, then the money just makes more sense.
Yeah.
The appreciation. And so because I feel like you're so busy with the everyday out-of-state buyer calling you, I want the everyday local buyer calling you too, because I feel like they deserve, if they're interested in investing, to get in now before this law passes or it goes into effect January 1. And for me, as I started in Class A investing, I was a newbie investor, self-taught, didn't know what I was doing. I bought in downtown Fishers knowing the comprehensive plan was coming and what they were going to do. I bought a property early on, maybe when I was 26, and it was in effect about $110,000. And right now that property is probably worth about $250,000. Okay, so, and I have that appreciation, plus I've rented it, and it's a 2-bedroom. I rented it for $1,400 all the way up until COVID, and then post-COVID rates went up to $1,800.
Nice.
And so it's been $1,800 a month, for a very long time. And it is a condo, so there's HOA fees involved. So those are things we have to talk about. But all in all, that's as a newbie investor, it was so safe. I felt so comfortable doing it because I knew, as a baby realtor, that I could find someone to rent that space.
Yeah.
And I've never had.
It's not going to sit vacant for very long.
I've never had vacancy for more than like a week or two.
Yeah.
And so I knew that, and my experience in real estate, which is what I encourage all of us, high achieving, high level brokers, is that we know this experience, we know what people want. So let's help bridge that gap, whether we buy it for ourselves for future passive income or we help our investor buyers buy it. And I also like to encourage people to think about, buying around IPY or buying around Purdue or buying around Muncie if you think your kids are going to head there. There's a great long-term play there. I love student housing. I'm involved in that. You do Airbnbs. You're in Florida as well. So among us, we have a lot of experience.
Oh yeah.
But we just feel like we want everybody, realtors and everyday professionals in Indy and in a HAMCO to do what we've been doing, is building generational wealth for our family.
And come to an agent like us we can give you to basically give you the fast track to this. We've done all the legwork over many, many years. I mean, we've both been brokers for a long time. We've been investing for a very long time. And so we can give you that fast track. While it's good to do your own due diligence, of course, come to an agent like us. Again, we can take you through the whole process, break it all down for you very simply, and help you find the right investment that fits your needs
Yeah,
the
and
best.
and you know what? It's not a slam dunk. We're not. This isn't our moneymaker. We just do it to help, right? Like making money on these investments as we're representing our clients. It's not about the money at the time of closing. It's about the relationship that we're building with them. And then as new properties come up, we can't personally buy them or our clients, we can share them. You know, it's just creating that network of like we want to help because it's created financial independence for both of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that this rental cap, whether we love it or we hate it, it's going to force people to think differently. And we're just here to be the voice of like urgency for people who have been wanting to be in Hamilton County or own a rental. Prices are only going to go up.
Yep.
Restrictions are only going up. So why not now? In 17 years, I've never seen a Fisher starter home go down in price.
That's what I'm saying. It's about as safe as it possibly gets.
Could
And
be.
I can't see any scenario outside of, World War III or something crazy like that. But we got bigger problems if that
Yeah,
happens.
right.
Really, like, I can't envision a scenario that would cause it to go down, at least go down drastically for a long period of time. I mean,
So-
2008, yeah, we all took a collective step backwards.
Backwards.
And if something like that were to happen again, sure, a little bit of an impact in the short term. But real estate's a long-term game. It is.
Yeah.
You can play the short term too, of course, but when you're talking about rental properties and building generational wealth, that is a long-term thing. So you can ride out the little dips. And
Yeah.
it is, this is about as
true.
safe as it possibly
And we'll
gets.
be willing to be direct with you. What we've done works, and we've gone through the gamut. We know, and I think it's just. I have so many clients that are like, "Hey, the professionals, I have a little bit of extra income. I don't want to do the stock market. What are you doing?" And I love that part of why Portfolio came about. Is I want to share the word of like what we are doing and why big corporations are doing it in 2020 and
Yes.
2021. And it's still a good play. So call us. Let's figure out what the play is. And I guess let's fast forward. Let's say we encourage the everyday professional buyer to invest and go into the Hamco, and is specifically for Fisher. So let's say they buy our 300K or Sarah's upcoming Sunblast, which is going to be in the low 300s. They buy it. We close October or November. Do I have to get a lease right away? That's a question that we're going to have to find out. Do I lease it so that lease is
Grandfathered
registered
in, yeah.
by January 1? And I believe that's the case.
Yeah.
So unless we're told otherwise, I think time is of the essence.
Yeah, sooner the better.
As long as you get signed up by December 31st. So we need a lease signed by December 30th.
Yep.
We have property managers that can help you with all this, and we'll help you source it.
Yeah.
The right one.
Help you from the very first, initial phone call all
Yeah.
the way to getting the keys and beyond.
And
every
then
step of the way.
then if you don't like it, we'll find you something else.
Yeah.
Right.
And because it's such a safe bet in such a safe area, if you need to sell it,
That's
very
right.
easy
Very
to
easy
do
to
so as
sell.
well.
Yeah, and breaking into the lower income of 200, 300K into Hamilton County, that's a bread and butter buy.
Yeah.
It's a safe buy. So call us. We'll give you the down and dirty. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts.
course,
I'm
yeah.
really
Thanks for
happy
having
to
me.
have your education here, and everyone, please share this and send your comments. Please see the link and follow Peter. He's just a wealth of knowledge. We're so thankful to have him, nationally known in the industry of investing, and here sharing his knowledge. So if you are interested, call us. We actually have some really great deals in homes that you could look into as becoming long-term Class A investments that you should probably look into before January 1. So any questions, feel free to call us and follow Peter. He's a great source of knowledge for investing here in Hamco. Well, thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Megan.
All right, talk soon.